Hello, everybody, and today I am joined by Hanneke Goense, who will be speaking about her research with the HHD in Limburg. So maybe you would like to introduce yourself to begin with.
Good evening. Thank you, Alastair, for introducing me. My name is Hanneke, and I work as a junior researcher at the HGD, the Public Health Service in Limburg. And I'm currently working on a project that's called Limburg for Zero. And I want to talk about this project today, if that's possible.
Of course, thank you very much for coming. Maybe you could start, though, by explaining what Limburg for Zero aims to achieve.
Yeah, of course. Limburg for Zero, the project I'm working on, is part of the bigger picture, actually, of the Netherlands to Zero. Limburg for Zero is also funded by the AIDS Fund, and their goal is to bring a stop to the HIV epidemic in the Netherlands. And they are motivating regional approaches, initiatives that works towards zero new cases of HIV infections. Some regions are accomplishing other kinds of projects, but in Limburg we want to stimulate HIV and STI testing by offering home sampling tests. And with the funding for this Limburg for Zero project, we hope to achieve that.
Well, that's a very noble goal you've set out to achieve, and a very large one at that. Maybe you could explain for our viewers what your role within this project is.
My role within this project is, with two sides. We also have to make sure that the home sampling testing is implicated in healthcare, but also researching and evaluating throughout to see if this project is worth it, is going to make zero new cases of HIV in Limburg. Because HIV is still a problem in the Netherlands. We are on the right track though, because 90% of people in the Netherlands are aware of their HIV status, but there's still 10% remaining that's not aware that they are HIV infected, which are approximately 1,730 people who are still not aware, and this needs attention. So there's still work to be done in the whole of the Netherlands, but also in Limburg. Because approximately 50 to 150 people in Limburg are living with HIV and who are not aware of their status. That's an estimation of the Foundation of HIV Monitoring in the Netherlands. And if people remain undiagnosed, they can transmit HIV and other STIs as well without even knowing it. That's why we need to take action, and it's not only beneficial for public health, but there's also a clinical benefit because earlier treatment is made possible by testing early.
Well, thank you very much. And in answering that question, you've stolen my next. So soon you'll be after my job.
I'm sorry.
No. Makes my job easier. I'm not complaining. So, if I understand it correctly, your work primarily focuses on men who have sex with men. Maybe you could expand on why there is this focus.
Yeah, of course. We do focus on men who have sex with men. That's MSM in short. Because among this group, most of the new HIV infections were found in the Netherlands. And therefore, we expect to find more new HIV infections among MSM in Limburg as well. So when we talk about the HIV and STI testing in Limburg, research from 2018 stated that 53% of men who have sex with men test regularly. So regularly means once in 6 months, which is actually less than the national average, which is 61%. And that's why we expect to find potential in more testing and motivating testing among this group.
Do you know if there are any reasons why or thoughts behind why men who have sex with men test less regularly than the national average?
Yeah, I do. Because on beforehand, sorry?
No. I was just going to ask if maybe you could expand on that.
Oh yeah, of course. I was just about to.
Yeah.
Previously, before this project, Janine Lene used intervention mapping approach to develop this home care program for MSM. And she performed a needs assessment that confirmed that there was a positive attitude towards home sampling testing, but there were also barriers. And these barriers, I think, doesn't help, but are barriers that people have to travel to the STI test site, for example, or run into other people. And those were barriers that were stated to be barriers for not getting tested regularly or not getting tested at all. And home sampling, we think, would overcome these barriers. And it would save time, it would grant freedom, and to perform a test whenever you want, in the comfort of your own home, for example. And there were also in-depth interviews with participants, and they were expected to test more regularly if home testing was available.
And so maybe you could expand on the term men who have sex with men, or MSM, over, say, the use of gay and bisexual or other terminology, and why that is chosen for your work, if you're able to.
Yeah. Yes, so MSM, men who have sex with men. We did choose this, the reason I used before, so most new HIV infections were found among this group. But it's also a term based on behavior rather than on identification. So MSM can also be identified as men who have sex with men as well as women, or transgender who identify as men, have sex with men or with women as well. And we also tend to include the men who used to have sex with men because we believe that it's also a risk. So it's not a matter of being gay or being bisexual, but because of the most new HIV infections were found among men who have sex with men, it's more based on behavior than on the identification.
I think that's a really nice explanation you've given, and I hope it will help our listeners, because it seems to be a term that recurs. So if nothing else, it's a nice refresher to have it defined. So obviously you've spoken already about the positives of home testing to some extent, but maybe you could explain more generally why Limburg for Zero has adopted a policy of high testing over other prevention methods.
It's not only testing, obviously, that is going to increase. That's eventually to decrease of infections, but also STI care that we will provide, because as the public health service, we strive for complete care. So the care doesn't stop after being tested, because we believe that the combining of testing, HIV care, is the key towards complete care. So also other forms of STI care that we provide, so as consultations, like or vaccination possibilities on hepatitis B, for example. And we also choose the home sampling test not to only be HIV testing, but also STI testing. So with this home sampling kit, you can also test for chlamydia, gonorrhea, or syphilis infection. So I think we decided that complete care is the key for succeeding in going to 0 new HIV infections in Limburg.
Thank you very much for that explanation, because I think there is a clear link between people being able to identify that they are HIV positive and then not only being able to seek treatment but also methods to prevent it from further spreading.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so you spoke a bit about the almost factors of home sampling as a mechanism to increase testing rates, but were there any other considerations that motivated the decision to start home testing and to push for that, especially within men who have sex with men?
What do you mean exactly? That there were other choices between like home sampling testing and other choices, or
well, instead of say pushing for large campaigns to make people go out to the public health service and try and motivate people to test more there, what motivated the move to home sampling more?
Yeah, I think the previous research on that testing has its barriers, but also we think that home sampling testing is lowering the barriers, lowering the bars to look for care and also for STI consultation, for example. So we think that the home sampling testing is only a part of more remote healthcare, let's say. So also in this kind of pandemic where we are now, we see that the need, we think that the need is even larger, strive for home care. So not only home sampling testing, but also remote care through consultation, for example. And we research on that as well. I think that the key word here is maybe lowering the barriers and to get tested and to get into the healthcare system if you need it, and also that people are aware that healthcare is available at the STI clinic, for example.
Thank you for that. I think it helps almost give a fuller picture to the decision. But I'm now going to ask a question which is a more practical question, because obviously if people are doing home sampling, there's more of an onus on them to do the testing. So how do you ensure that these people are able to use these sampling kits properly?
So I can explain how the sampling kit looks like a bit. It consists of 4 tests. So it's a urine test, an anal test, a throat test, and a blood test. So the urine test and the throat test and the anal test are for chlamydia and gonorrhea testing in various places on the body. And there's a blood test who is screening for syphilis and HIV infections that you can perform with a finger stick.
I was sitting here going, how are you expecting people to stick needles in themselves? And then as soon as you said finger stick, I was like, oh, yeah, that's a much more sensible idea. This is why Alastair's a lawyer and not a doctor.
No, I'm sorry, it doesn't... okay, so it's just a little... I don't have an example on me right now, I'm sorry, but it's a little thingy, and it's you can compare it with this diabetic kind of finger stick.
As soon as you said finger stick, it made so much sense, and I was like, Why was I expecting they'd be taking vials?
There's not yet a method without needles. I'm sorry, but it's a tiny needle. So and it's completely safe. It's being tested throughout beforehand. So don't be afraid.
No, it was more the shock. Like, I was going, yeah, obviously, when they take blood, they'll just stick in like a capillary tube, spurting out. That'll be fun. No, finger prick, right? Okay, got it.
Just a little one, and we only need a couple of drops, so that's okay. Okay, so back to the package. It's a discreet package as well, which is important, we think. It's a little white bag, and it fits into your letterbox, so you don't have to stay at home if you receive the package. And you can send it back without needing a stamp for the box. And there is an information letter and instructions in Dutch and in English as well, so that we lead you through every step of the way of handling these tests. So there's the instruction and the information letter that are added to the package that will guide you not only by text but also by pictures. So every step of the way has its own picture that you can see what you have to do to perform the test correctly. And we also provide extra information on our website. And you can always contact the STI clinic to help you perform these tests. So we provide with all sorts of additional information and also in the package. I think with clear pictures, it's going to be doable.
Thank you very much for that explanation. I now know what is involved in a home testing HIV kit, which honestly I think took more effort on my part than was required. But obviously this then helps identify various STI healthcare concerns. What do you do after these tests have been conducted? Because obviously there's a lot to be done from one test being conducted to organising a move towards 0 new HIV cases in Limburg.
What we do afterwards is, I think I mentioned it before, is that we monitor and evaluate this health innovation every step of the way. And we also use several ways to collect data so that we can evaluate and look if this is the right way to reach 0 HIV infections and STI infections in Limburg. So we're asking ourselves the questions: what went well? What could have gone better? Are we satisfied? Are the people satisfied with the instructions as well? And also other kinds of questions that we were going to ask. We tried to do that both well, so the quantitative way and the qualitative way as well. So after performing this home sampling test, participants will get this evaluation questionnaire with the questions I mentioned before, and we will also perform in-depth interviews with a small group of MSM. Not only will we perform these interviews with the MSM themselves, but also with the healthcare professionals, to see and to monitor their experiences with this home sampling kits. And also then we have the added information that we need to evaluate and to know if this is the way to 0 new infections, if this is indeed lowering the barrier to get tested.
Thank you, because you've given us a lovely explanation of what kind of data you start to collect. And you mentioned you're then looking at evaluating that and seeing how and whether this is moving us in the right direction towards zero aid. Maybe you could expand more, because you expanded on the kinds of data you're collecting. Maybe you could expand on how you're evaluating it, if that's possible.
Yeah, that's possible in a way that we do evaluate, and we not only collect the data, but we also want to set up like this kind of panel group. That's not only for the home sampling testing as a thing, but also for remote care testing, remote care in general. So that you can think of setting up a co-creation with MSM or with healthcare workers who work with MSM. To see what are extra needs and what are extra demands from this group. Because we feel right now that remote care is even more a thing. And we need to evaluate all these experience in the collaboration with the healthcare workers as well. Every phase of the process, so it's not only a research thing, but it's also a thing from the healthcare. Because it's the healthcare that we provide as the public health service. And as a researchers, it's our job to evaluate this new health innovation.
Thank you very much. And now at this point, I'd normally ask what people would take away from their research, but this almost feels bigger than research, because obviously there are large practical implications. But do you think there are takeaways either from a research perspective or from a more personal perspective that you have found while doing this job?
You mean like a more personal motivation, or?
Well, are there things that you've learned from this job, either purely of a research interest or from a personal interest, that you think will affect the way you move forwards into other projects and into other things?
I think what I have learned, or what I am going to learn, is that what I just mentioned before, is that the co-creation is maybe a big thing. A big thing, let's say that it's really important to listen to the needs of the target group, as I might say right now, because they know what's best, and they also know what's needed to reach this zero new infections, or to people who are not in health yet but want to get in health, what they need to do what they want from us as a healthcare service. To accomplish that, and I think that it's important to listen, not only from a research point of view, but also from a more healthcare point of view, to know what is needed to not only reach this group, but also to listen to this group.
Thank you very much. I think that's a very nice takeaway, and I think it's something that you see more and more the importance of actually taking the almost civic society in a broader sense of it and really involving them in the process, because you're right, you're not going to achieve zero HIV infections if you don't have members of the community and members of society who are in some way causing new HIV infections, buying into a way to reduce it. And so, I mean, do you have anything else you'd like to add? Because I notice we're coming to the end of our half an hour together.
Something that I want to add, like a shout out at the end. It's maybe that we as a public health service want to provide care to people, not only on behalf of testing, but also consultation or just questions about well, maybe safer sex or sexual behavior, or yeah, we are there to help. And it doesn't stop. Well, what I mentioned before, it doesn't stop with just only testing. It is the whole package. It's the whole STI care that we provide of. Yeah, and we are available to listen to men who have sex with men, but also other groups of people who maybe are at risk of STI infections.
And maybe, presumably, the Hanneke has a website that people could access if they wanted more information on all of this. Maybe you would be able to share it with our listeners.
Yes, well, we do. For this project, we are also setting up a website. Right now, there is just a standard, so we're working on it. So right now, there's only a standardized text available, but in the near future, very near future, our website, www.limburgvoorzero.nl, is going to provide you with information on the home sampling test, but also on, well, how to get a home sampling test, obviously, but also on how do I get vaccinated for hepatitis B, or what is an STI, or all sorts of information. If you are interested in PrEP, for example, you can find that information on this website.
Well, Hanneke, thank you very much for your half an hour on your Friday evening, but also for all the work you're doing to rid Limburg of HIV.
Thank you.